Jeremy Woodward, production designer for Sound of Metal. This movie is about a heavy metal drummer who loses his hearing, so sound or lack thereof is the main focus. How did that influence your approach to the film?
Well, it was funny because, I mean, of course, as you're developing the project, we're sort of front-loaded in what we're dealing with in the sort of the loud end, because all of the instruments, all of the actors played practically. We had real drum kits. Riz Ahmed learned to play the drums over the course of several months. Olivia Cook learned to play the guitar. So we were actually sort of immersed in the world of the loud. And then a lot of the subjective, the really intense subjective soundscapes. We knew that Darius, the director, had a lot of stuff planned, and the sound recordist would run around and take all these weird readings off of Riz, his body himself, and just like very involved room tone recordings like I've never seen before. But that end of it was sort of a mystery, and really didn't come into, we weren't privy to it until actually seeing the film for the first time. So, the way the script is really very smartly written, and that there's a lot of ways where the settings as the movie progresses are talking back and forth to Ruben's journey through losing his hearing, and the way different settings reflect where he is and can participate in the sort of storytelling in sort of more and less overt ways. So, it was very deliberate sort of on my part to play counterpoint to where Ruben was in his hearing loss, where he was sort of in his mental state. The script is very accommodating, like providing a lot of opportunities to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the production design does mirror his progress throughout the film, because as a musician, like, his life is so busy and hectic, and you see that in the RV. It's just like teeming with pictures and their equipment. It's strewn all over the place. So how did you go about finding the RV and decorating it?
Well, the RV, the production team, long ahead of when anybody else staffed up, had been looking for an RV for a long time. So they presented the RV, and I was like, yeah, that's an absolutely brilliant piece, but it had to be completely gutted and sort of dealt with. And so for me, the RV was really just a great opportunity to do a really careful bit of portraiture, to really create a setting that compresses all of the aspects of Ruben and Lou's lives. Their music, their lives together, their itinerant travel. You got aspects of the outside world with clippings and stuff. They're recording themselves. You got a sense of some of Ruben's sort of obsessive cleanliness and fitness, and you sort of which I sort of think of as sort of his recovery routines that allow him to sort of keep himself together, as he's obviously recovered from being an addict. So it was just a great opportunity to sort of take all of these different pieces and parts and kind of allow some of them to displace, what an RV is and what an RV is like inside, and just sort of smash all of these together. So like when you do settings, it's fun to do settings that really are organized and crafted and planned and built by a character. And this was sort of like a really, that was like that plus one. That was
yeah. And then when he gets to Joe's farmhouse, he can't control that, and what that looks like, and that's very minimalistic and white, and it's also like a metaphor for his hearing loss. So was that what you were going for with that design?
Absolutely what I was going for. We were really, and again, you kind of have to say kudos to the script, but a halfway house with it's communal living and people come and go. You literally walk in with only what you've got in a bag. And so personal touches are gone. It's a house that's sort of, it's got that sort of very paint everything white, easy to maintain, very sort of bare bones look, which was a really great way to sort of physicalize everything that he's lost. And so the audience kind of goes through, like, just watching it subtly, you sort of are experiencing a similar sort of sensory deprivation where you came from this like dense texture and color in this like very busy life, and then at the same time the sound goes away, like, all of this stuff, the stuff bleeds out, and so you're really kind of working in synchrony with the storytelling at that point.
Mm-hmm. Was the farmhouse on location?
It was location, yeah. It was actually on a nature preserve, and it was most recently used as a dormitory for sort of summer interns that would take care of the place. So we went in and sort of turned it a bit towards where we're at, but it was an old farmhouse, had a lot of bedrooms, and was actually just like really well set up for exactly what we needed. It was a great find.
Mm-hmm. Well, the room where Joe sends him to write just has a table and chair. So was that something you landed on like pretty early and was obviously easy to furnish? Or is this one of those cases where it might be difficult because everything is so stripped down and bare bones that it might go against your instinct to add something more? Like you're like saying yes, like maybe a bookshelf in the corner or something.
Very funny because the script is very clear. Like this is a room with nothing but a table and a chair, and then so you do that, and then I would just ask myself, like, then you just find yourself going like, should there be another chair? Like, should there be like
something else?
Nickel on the windowsill that would just do that, like, but ultimately it just became like, I think we, there was a little shade on a light bulb that's in there. It's like, take away the shade and then put back the shade. And ultimately we just took it all out. And I mean, the thing that's great is actually with less, like, this is an opportunity. And again, it's just about being attentive to where the story's at, like, and to the use of this room in terms of the story, is that the room doesn't need to provide anything. It needs to be a reflection for Riz for Ruben of his internal self, and in that end, it becomes more like an instrument that he's playing as an actor than it does like something that he's playing against or playing opposite. That Ruben goes in and he's angry and he's pounding the walls and he's pacing, and it feels like a cage, and it feels like this sort of like abstract isolation booth. And then by the time he's able to just sort of sit back in the chair and look out the window and see the trees and listen to the birds, like it's a totally different space, and you're not feeling like it's empty anymore.
Mm-hmm. How much did you work with the deaf community about design and layout, especially with the classroom scenes?
So the deaf actors, a lot of them landed in terms of us during, when we actually got to the farmhouse. That's actually when I met a lot of them. A lot of it was research with the director Darius, who was really deeply researched and deeply involved with the deaf community, and just like really far in about sort of next level, like, inclusion mindset that I hadn't had a lot of contact with that community at all. So there was a bit of a learning curve for me to just sort of like discover, in a school situation, how does the deaf community occupy space so that they can communicate, which is a really simple question to ask, but it turns out like sitting in a circle is, when you start to look at the way deaf folks occupy schools and conference rooms and anytime they're in a group, you go in the room and then everything's pushed to the side and there's all the chairs in a circle, and you just see that sort of shape again and again and again and again. So it was that was a big learning curve.
Mm-hmm. In the beginning of the film, you see they play some of their shows, and they're against a black backdrop, and it's in striking contrast to the whiteness of the farmhouse later. So was that another way to depict his life pre and post hearing loss?
Sure, and that was actually sort of a mixture of things. Like, I'm very fond of the way, when you're in the beginning of the movie and you're just in this black space and you're just seeing them play. Part of the blackness and part of it is to just get everything else out of the way and let you really fall into and just really take in these two people and take in what they're doing. And there's this intense physicality about what they're doing. There's this intense physicality about Ruben's drumming and about who's playing. And it's just sort of like that in the beginning where all the black is about just sort of subtracting and allowing you to just really take them in, who they are, what they're putting out, what their bodies are doing. And then, as I sort of would look at the way the show would progress across time, like there was this sort of rhythm that would happen where you would see a lot of texture and detail and stuff like this, and then you would fall into a show, and then it would sort of rise into a big textured, very busy moment, and then you would fall into a show. And so really use those kind of like the intense blackness of those shows kind of like a kind of a palate cleanser. Again, where you just sort of fall into the intensity of what they were doing.
Mm-hmm. The last scene is gorgeous when he finally finds that stillness that Joe was talking about. Where did you guys shoot that?
Well, that was actually in Belgium. I was like, the show was on very short pockets, so they didn't bring most of the US crew over. So I was, my relationship to that was mostly photo review and then sending images to the art director that was over there and coaching him through grappling with so that was the exterior scenes and the location, which was the father's house, where Ruben and Lou are reunited after he has the surgery. And so that was mostly like photo review and coaching, over the internet. Mm-hmm. So that was found nearby, but it was actually Belgium.
So you were like scouting from afar. Yeah. Improving. All right. Well, Jeremy, it was great speaking with you. Thanks so much for your time and congratulations on everything.
Oh, thanks for having me in.
Thank you.